Finally, the moment a couple of you have been waiting for.
It's all like bing bong, Jack.
Coming to you from an undisclosed location in Duval and St. Johns County. The show for JAG fans by JAG fans.
You can't have a newcomer come in and steal the show.
Here are your hosts, Franklin and Michael how you say it? DeZoba. Welcome to the JAG Or NOT podcast. We got a damn good show for you. Yeah, I forgot. You're supposed to wait. I'm supposed to say, we got a good show for you. And then you're supposed to come in and go, we got a damn good show.
We got a damn good show for you.
All right. Well, it's miserable conditions outside, which is probably fitting. As we do this, it's raining and nasty. So we had a nasty. Our Jaguars turned into a miserable franchise while we're away. Hey, is that what happened? Us not doing this? Did that cause? Is there any like a butterfly effect?
No, because the last one we did, I think, was right before Cincinnati.
Yeah, it didn't help us.
No, it didn't help us in Cincinnati, so I don't think it had anything to do with us. But it would have been nice, right? I mean, if that was the case, to keep doing these things.
Dr. Mike,
Whoa.
what is your diagnosis of this team?
Poor play. Look, as a Jags fan, as a longtime Jag fan, we have seen poor play from bad players. We've seen poor play from mediocre players. We've seen poor play from average players, and it continues to go up the scale. What we saw on Sunday was reminiscent of 2015 Jags, 2014 Jags, 2013 Jags. It was awful. There was a time at the very early stages of Derrick Henry's career where we played them here, and one of our defensive tackles said, "They two-gapped us." Right? Do you
remember that? Yeah.
You remember that? Like, no shit, Sherlock. You're going against the Titans who run Derrick Henry, and you're not prepared to run. Now, I don't want to blame this all on Caldwell. Yeah, in case you guys haven't heard, Caldwell and the entire defensive staff got the axe. So I don't want to blame it all on Caldwell because it's not all on Caldwell. If you're going to play Tennessee, and Josh Allen, here's this game plan, and it's not covering gaps. Shouldn't he be, hey, wait, this isn't what we did last time. Last time we shut their asses down. Shouldn't we do that again? Shouldn't we go after Henry again?
Yeah.
So they want to say that it's part and parcel. It is poor coaching. It is poor motivation. It is poor game plan. And on top of all of it, it is damn poor execution. So you cannot have one without the other. It was just a microcosm of bad football, bad plays, bad calls at the wrong time, and bad performance.
Yeah.
It was awful.
Well, I think a lot of the points that you talked about kind of link to each other, and I think what happens is one thing sort of leads to another, and so you try to understand it holistically, like it's a system failure is what I'm sensing. You can say, execution was bad, game planning was bad, players' motivations, understanding the scheme, communication, all these things all sort of lead to one diagnosis for me. And as we watch these games, I had said this for the last half of the season, This is a poorly coached team. It became apparent after a while it was a poorly coached team. And I think everybody gave so that last season, last year bought brought hope into it, and bought the the whole team a this honeymoon sort of period where we thought, okay, we got Super Bowl winning Doug Peterson. I think quickly now we go, wait a minute, now we didn't get the Super Bowl and we're already to the Doug Peterson that Philly got rid of. I think that's where we're at. As a fan base, it's fair. I mean, it is fair because it was very disheartening for me when everybody knows that the interior offensive line is terrible. I mean,
is bad.
My gosh, we've been talking about this for 2 years with Doug Peterson, okay? I'm not going to continue to say we've been talking about it because I've been saying that a lot too. And it did take some time for everybody to catch up, I think, to us, where I'm sure other people were out there saying and echoing the same things, but people were very positive about the team. They didn't want to hear negative stuff. But it was an issue going in. We had 13 draft picks, and we didn't really do anything. Like, we replaced Juwan. But we needed to improve the line. We didn't want to stand pat, and you could argue that's not actually standing pat because you're taking a veteran, no matter what status you think he was enough to where most people wanted to keep him, really, and the Chiefs signed him, so they thought he was good enough. And you're bringing in a rookie to replace him, so on paper we got worse. And we got worse, Not that Juwan was the key or anything, but it's the mentality of going into that offseason and not understanding what your roster makeup is. That's the problem that I have. Everybody's blaming Balky. I'm on board again with the fire Balky train. I'm there too. But this is a big deal for Peterson because he stood on the podium when they asked him, and this is why you get asked, how come your offensive line is terrible, basically? Or evaluate the offensive line is what they asked him. He blamed injuries. Everybody's got injuries. Dougie P? Everybody has injuries. You have talentless people in the interior. Talentless people. And everybody knows it, apparently, but Doug, I know what people will say. A coach will never call out their players, and I get that, but you don't lie. You don't say, no, they're actually talented if it wasn't for the injuries. Because that's not true. The worst guy on the field, and that was exemplified in this game, is Luke Fortner. He wasn't injured. Go to the injury report. If the offensive line has injuries, then the league needs to look into you because you didn't put them on the injury report. And they performed terrible. Again, they've been terrible all year. And this is just one aspect of it, but again, it's this whole connection thing. How does your head coach say that with a straight face? That's indicative of a huge problem for me. Maybe it's not as bad because maybe he just, in his zeal to protect his players, maybe he went the wrong direction and lied in that way instead of just deflecting with generalities. But that's a big problem, and that is very concerning for hope moving forward for me. So what are your thoughts on specifics? I mean, obviously the offensive line, we can talk about that, but is there what else? What about Trevor? What do we say about Trevor? What's your thoughts moving forward? How do you feel about Trevor?
Okay, so it's weird because I think the season for Trevor is almost the tale of two seasons. I thought he was fine up until he started to get hurt, and then at that point, I thought he started to play bad. But we have seen bad play from Trevor. You know how big of a fan I am of Trevor.
Yeah,
You know how bad I wanted him to be the generational talent,
I called
the
for it this
leader.
year.
I don't think he's that. I'm not saying he can't attain that, but right now he's not that. I don't believe that he's a one read hero.
Right. I don't think that's fair.
So I don't think that's fair, but he makes way too many mistakes. When he's in the pocket with the ball, he doesn't protect it at all. He doesn't run like he should. You know, if he really just took more time to let the line split,
Yeah.
and then find an alley and just haul ass, we would do much better than what he does. The play calling doesn't help. Now, I don't know. Again, you never know if they're trying to protect Trevor with the play calling because our O line is so bad.
Yeah. That's part of it.
Regardless, Trevor at this point he's a top 25 quarterback in the NFL. He may not be number 25. He may be between 17 and 25. But I think that's where he fits. I think that's what he's earned.
How do you put him past CJ Stroud? You can't. CJ Stroud is already better than Trevor Lawrence, and Trevor's got a 3-year head start.
And I agree.
He is. He's better.
I agree.
He's better.
But I'm not trying to poo-poo CJ Stroud. What I want to see is now that there is a year of tape on CJ Stroud. We've all seen it. Rookies come in and they blow the doors off the NFL.
Right.
Year 2, something happens. You know what happens? The NFL figures out what they do good, what they do bad, and they take away what they do good.
Right.
Okay, so I want to see that because the tape's already out on Trevor. Whether we like it or not, can he improve? Sure. Can CJ Stroud improve? Sure. Every quarterback can improve at this point, if that makes sense. So this year, CJ Stroud outplayed him, completely killed him. There aren't a lot of other quarterbacks who Trevor beat.
I mean, you can think of backups
who he lost to.
That we lost to. That they're and it's a smaller size, but they were good. And let's be fair, Trevor was not a good quarterback. You can say he had good moments. You can say he had good games. But overall, in a 17-game season, he is a below-average quarterback. He was a below-average quarterback. And there has to be some answer for that. Maybe it's Trevor. Maybe he's just a generational college prospect, but one of those that will never, for whatever reason,
translate to the NFL.
Properly.
Yeah.
That potential to the actual NFL game. That is a serious possibility at this point. I saw a tweet today where they compared his numbers to Blake Bortles after 3 seasons. Pretty comparable, man. I mean, it's very, very comparable. I think the thing that you mentioned, the play calling. So it's probably, let's talk about that and Peterson and Press Taylor. So Caldwell's released, the defense is released. Press Taylor stays. I expected Press Taylor to stay because
he's Doug Peterson's illegitimate son.
Well, listen, here's the thing, and I know that's it makes me laugh. I don't necessarily look at Press Taylor and think he's a bad play caller. Others do. I'm not on that camp. I'm on the camp that Balky is a bad GM, but I'm not in the camp that says Press Taylor, that I know what Press Taylor is. The reason why I say that, and I probably said this before, I know I've said it in the past few weeks. When a quarter of a season was done, and I'm sure I've had to have said this in past episodes, I noticed that the offense we were running this year was pretty much the same offense that we ran last year. You talked about how C.J. Stroud and any of these new quarterbacks come in, they get tape on them for a year, they understand what they do well. Well, I think that works for offensive philosophies too. We have a terrible offensive line, and it played into that to do what we did last year because we had the same terrible offensive line, which is we're going to throw these quick passes. A quarter of our passing offense, at least, is probably these things. Bubble screens, just quick outs, just quick little outside flare routes and things. I get it. Philosophically, I have no problem with it. But when you don't match up, when you don't add to that any depth, to me, if you go into this year and you think, how do we stop the Jaguars? You look back at what they did last year and you say, oh, yeah, well, hopefully they suck in the middle like they did last year, and we don't have to worry about in between the hashes, and we just focus, we cheat our safeties and our linebackers to the outside. That's why we didn't get anywhere. So how many passes did Trevor throw for 0 yards in the Titans game? Like you're
3 maybe?
I think it's more than that. I mean, some of them might not even have been completions, you know. When you throw a pass, there's a chance, some chance it'll get intercepted. There's another chance, probably a greater chance it won't be caught. The route, who's catching it, all the factors, changed the percentage of completion, but it's a risk you don't get nothing because it's an incomplete pass. When you get a completion, your reward is 0 yards. And the hope that your receiver will turn it into something. That's what we're relying on. So right there, you're gambling with your downs, bad returns. You're not going to get good returns. I get it. You're trying to get the ball out of his hands, okay? The problem is that the defense, all the defenses, the jig was up. They knew that that's what we were doing, and I don't think we adjusted in time. I did see adjustments late in the year. That's why Ingram was catching these balls in the hashes. He wasn't doing that earlier in the year. He started getting those catches. I mean, he gets some like that every now and again, but they made some adjustments. It was too late. So the offensive philosophy was a hindrance. You talked about protecting Trevor, and that does help protect him, but it doesn't matter if he's going to have to drop back on third because it's 3rd and 10, or your stupid lineman hold or false start and it's freaking 3rd and 20 or 3rd and 15 or something stupid, because we know we're not going to be able to run. We run to the outside, they catch us. We throw to the outside, they catch us. We don't tend to go into the middle very often. So what do you get? You get Trevor trying to throw these long passes to the outside. Sometimes they're complete, sometimes they're not. And, well, that's also a risk for injury because then he has to step in the pocket. So even though you minimize it on all these other downs, you're maximizing his injury on the 3rd downs. So the offensive philosophy was a problem. They carried that in, and I don't know that Press Taylor was going to change that. I looked at what that was being called, and I thought, you know what? That is exactly what Doug Peterson's probably going to call. It could be different plays here. I mean, I'm sure there would be different plays. But Doug Peterson's in the headset. He's given the okay to all these plays. Our problem right now is Doug Peterson. It's not Press Taylor. And I'm not saying it's going to be a problem next year or we're going to suck next year. But I'm not hopeful that we're going to be good next year because the guy whose job it is to figure this out, he doesn't even know if that our offensive line's bad. I think that's a problem.
So all that just to circle back to our horrible offensive line.
Well, again, it's a microcosm of his.
So here's
ability.
another microcosm. You have 13 picks. You have plenty of power to move up in the draft. You know, watching the same games in tape that we do, that Luke Fortner can't push my grandma off the line. You know that. You get to watch the same things we watch. You have 13 draft picks, and you do nothing. You do nothing. We sit here as fans, and we say our O-line's trash. Well, Luke Fortner's trash. He's garbage. Remember, man, I was big on that one dude. He's left, so I'm not going to say his name, but I bashed him all the time. I bashed him because he was a first-round draft pick, and he was horrid. Luke Fortner, he's a third-round draft pick, but you're horrid. The knock on you was you were small. You weren't strong, but you were smart. Well, you failed. That's the way I look at it. He failed. It was a wasted draft pick, right? We get Tank Bigsby. Could have picked up a center. We get Britton Strange. Woo! Tore it up this year.
Don't forget the injured Florida linebacker who didn't even get a chance to play. You
even
drafted
got
him
to
injured.
I haven't got to Abdullah. Anyway, you can go outside of the first round. He did nothing with 13 draft picks to really bring in anybody who had the potential to start. He drafted for depth when you knew watching the damn games.
Do they know? Are they the only ones in who pay attention to football that are unaware of their talent?
Okay, so if you're telling me this is like the smartest man in the room syndrome, and it might very well
With Balky,
be.
it could be. Peterson, I'm not sure about.
Balky seems like he'll have that attitude. Like, I've been doing this for 16 years, don't you tell me. Well, I'll tell you what, your draft picks suck. You blew almost all of them. We may have depth, but obviously it's not quality depth. Hell, look at Caleb Munchazon. I know you didn't draft him, but that's not quality depth. Anyway, I think you put poor draft picks or that they don't have a chance to develop because they never had the skill set to do it, I guess, in there, and then you want them to succeed.
Yeah.
And then you do nothing but get backups. Congratulations, Brenton Strange. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Tank Bigsby. I think you cost us what? 2 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns at least this year?
Yeah.
For the other team. Now you play on offense. Understand that. This guy plays on offense. But he cost us, I think, 3 touchdowns to the other team.
Right.
It makes, when we needed a center, when we needed a defensive end, now don't sit there and tell me that there weren't guys available. Yes, I understand all teams miss on certain guys. All teams hit every now and again on the diamond in the rough. I get it. But if your self-evaluation didn't come up with Luke Fortner as a problem and your pass rush as a problem, your self-evaluation is the issue.
That's what I'm saying.
So now, is that Balky? Is that Peterson? Is it a mix of 2 twits? I don't know. So that's what we got. We got a left twit and we got a right twit. It's like the Twix, but they're different. But it's not candy.
Well,
power men.
Here's the thing that So I'll give Balky a very slight defense in this, and then I'll commence to bashing. Um, it is hard to find offensive linemen nowadays. I just don't think colleges are building offensive linemen like they used to. The college game changed, I guess, because so many teams are having that problem. That being said, you had 13 draft picks. And even if you go, we've got a grade of 82, and you'd have to draft a 90 guy or whatever. I don't know how it works. And you're in your last half of the first round, whatever. You can move. You had the ammo to move. I move down, okay, but move back up to get where you need to be to feel like you got your value. Or draft, my God, draft somebody. What's the worst that they're gonna say? You're gonna you over, you shot too high, you drafted him too early. We drafted Chad Muma last year. I don't know what kind of player Chad Muma is. We can't even get him on the field. Devin Lloyd was on the field. Devin Lloyd sucked against the Titans. He was slow, and he had no idea where the hell he was supposed to be. Gap integrity, that's one of the reasons why. But the guy that you drafted at the same position, you can't get on the field, so I don't really want to hear about value. Because you take value and you flush it down the toilet if you're going to draft a guy. Because guess what? Even if you figure out Muma needs to be playing over Lloyd, his rookie contract's almost up. So this is the sort of short-sighted way of understanding the basics, to me, of being a GM. Yeah, you went out and you got Sheriff, okay, and you expected him to be good, but you know what? You also kind of expect him to be injured, too. He brought the injury part, apparently. I mean, he played most of the time these past 2 years, but every time you ask why he's not any good, you hear, well, he was playing with injuries, Hopefully he'll be back. I mean, this is what Peterson said again. Not specifically Sheriff, but the whole line. It's injuries that are to blame here. So, why didn't Balky grab offensive linemen? We drafted a tight end after spending money on a tight end. Like, we're doubling up and therefore losing value. It doesn't matter if the player's good. Brenton Strange was only going to be able to get you were only going to be able to get so much out of Brenton Strange in all likelihood. It's not a terrible pick, but it is when you think you have the luxury to do that. And that goes back to what you said. That means this is a guy who doesn't have a clue about his roster talent because he thinks, I don't need Osiris Torrance. I've got Brandon Sheriff. I've got Ben Barch on coming off injury. Ben Barch isn't even good when he's healthy, and he was injured. And they know Shatley's just a guy who's a backup. They know that. You know that because you've seen it for years under a few different coaching staffs. Nobody trusts that guy. Nobody wants him to be the starter. Everybody's like, he's a really good backup. And he is. A backup role. In other words, you had a clear, you needed a piece there at a position that, by the way, protects the quarterback that you're gambling your whole franchise on. So none of it made sense. And the fact that the owner, like, I get Shad Khan bought the team and he's just a Pakistani bumper guy, okay? But have you watched football since you've been an owner? Have you talked to other owners? You're in football circles now for what? 8, 9, how long has he owned the team? Don't you know anything now? To evaluate where your GM is. Like I said it only made sense for Khan to keep Balky last year because of the litigation with Urban Meyer. And I totally understood that because that's the only thing that made sense about it. And here we are, and they fired Caldwell. And you would think that if they were going to get rid of Balky, they would have done it by now. Here's where
they're not canning Balky.
Right. That's what I'm saying. They're keeping Balky. It doesn't make sense. We're doing things that don't make sense. Everybody's saying it doesn't make sense. But the people in charge, they're the only ones that don't see. The emperor's got no clothes, but they think they're finally attired. Like, what is going on here? As a fan of this franchise, and this is the frustrating thing because you think about this is a pattern now. Because 2010, 2017, and we just did it again. We get to the playoffs, we tease the fan base, and then we come out and crap all over ourselves and look like idiots, and the Titans beat the brakes off of us. That's what happens to the Jaguars. Even a generational talent can't stop it. Even a Super Bowl winning coach can't stop it. And that's where the fan base is right now, and it's very frustrating.
Well, I agree. Doesn't matter how much sugar you put on it, it's still a piece of shit.
Chocolate coated turd.
Yeah, I mean, what you can't. This is what the podcast is for. It's for us to vent about this. I mean, because what else can we do? How many years have we sat there just being frustrated with the shit that goes on? Because it's like nobody listens to us. To me, I wanted to come on here to vent because I felt like the local media were always pro Jags and never really saying the truth.
Yeah.
Like they would never say this guy sucked or this move was awful or what are you doing with 13 draft picks and one starter?
Yeah.
Like, you know, they still don't say that stuff. And it bothers me. Now I understand they're the only game in town. So you have to placate them. You have to get on your knees to them. You have to bow. I understand that. But we don't get paid. So we can come in here and say this. I like that. That was always nice.
Yeah. So, I mean, on that point, if for anyone who does patronize this channel at all, you have noticed that we have not done a show in this whole slide almost. And it kind of weird too, man. I think there was part of me that is very, I kind of sensed it coming. I was not, I know this has been a train wreck in the heart for people because it's the Titans and all that, but I almost did think, yeah, this is what we are. This is what we are. And I emotionally decoupled myself from the team weeks ago. Like I just had to because you can't keep doing this to people. You can't do that, you know? And
it's like a bad relationship, man.
Yeah. And so on that point, I was just wanting to say, yeah, we didn't do a number of shows. Honestly, this may be our last show. We may do some more at some point, but I know that going forward, I just want to let people know if they do, watch the show. One of the things you'll notice, we don't get a lot of viewers, and that's fine. That's not like blaming the audience. We don't really. I'm not a self promoter. I'm not really pushing it. So we're not really, it is what it is. You get in what you put in, I guess. But the point is that we just, if you do look for the show, the one or two of you out there, we may do more in the future, but it's not certain at this point, just because it does take some time and energy and stuff, and like I said, I almost, just as a mental health, have to I do have to decouple myself from this team, because as a fan you do become fanatic to some extent, and that can be a double-edged sword, and you just go, well, here we go again. Let me not get my hopes up
Yeah.
on this, and so we'll maybe, if something happens that is important, or we just feel like uh,
Off and on.
yeah, something to share, maybe you'll see us. I'd keep subscribed, because I don't think it hurts you to stay subscribed to us, and we're not going to spam your YouTube channel or whatever. So, and if you hopefully if we do another show, then it'll be something that we have a reason to do it. Maybe we'll have something decent to say. So I just wanted to get that out there, a little housekeeping, and kind of let everybody know where we're at. We're
All
Jaguar
right. Well,
fans.
yeah, we're Jaguar fans.
Broken-hearted Jaguar fans. Beaten
And
by the
on that
Titans.
note, yeah, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining
Yeah.
us. It has been a hell of a journey.
All right. Do we give him a Duval?
Fuck no. The team didn't earn it.
All right. There's plenty of Duvals in the
Yeah,
past.
those bastards didn't earn a Duval. Good night.